My name is Aisha Mercedes. I'm a podcast host and a TV presenter on Islam Channel, and I've been Muslim for almost 13 years. I'm of mixed heritage. My mom is half English and half Irish, and my dad is Jamaican. I was born in Leytonstone in East London and lived there for the first few years of my life. Both sides of my family identified as Christian. My mom's side Catholic, my dad's side Protestant, but religion wasn't really practiced at home. There wasn't prayer around the table or church every Sunday. It was more like a label than a living faith. When I was around 4, my parents separated. My dad struggled with paranoid schizophrenia, and it made home life frightening and unpredictable. I remember my mom telling me later that she used to sleep with a knife under her pillow because she was terrified. She was worried for her life. Eventually, she made the decision no mother wants to make. We left. We moved from East London to North London, and for a while, we were just trying to build something stable out of chaos. There was a brief period when things felt like they might get better. We reconnected with my dad. I could see him sometimes, and I loved that. No matter what problems there were, he was still my father. But mental illness can be relentless. He had another episode, and suddenly everything was unsafe again. I was 12 when it all came to a head. There's one moment that sticks with me like it happened yesterday. I had some trouble at school. My mom told me not to tell my dad because she knew how quickly things could escalate. I told him anyway. I think a part of me hoped being honest would help. It didn't. He exploded. The anger, the shouting, it was terrifying. That same night, we left again. We went home, packed in silence, grabbed whatever we could carry, and moved to Essex. Essex felt like a different planet. I was the only mixed-race girl in a sea of white faces. There was one black student in the entire school. I walked into classrooms and corridors feeling like everyone's eyes were on me. I didn't know how to belong. I'd sit with people, join groups, laugh at jokes, and still feel completely alone. That feeling of being other lodged itself deep inside me. Even when I looked like I was fine, I wasn't. As I got older, the loneliness didn't disappear. It morphed into recklessness. When you don't feel anchored, you drift into dangerous waters. At 18, I was spiraling. I surrounded myself with people who were also a bit lost, kids from broken homes, people who didn't have strong family ties. We became each other's family, but it was a kind of family that pulled you further into the dark. I did things I'm not proud of. I kept chasing a sense of belonging that I couldn't find. Some nights, the darkness felt so heavy that I wondered if life was even worth it. In my early 20s, my circle changed again. I got involved in music. I met new people, creative, ambitious, hustling. One of them was a Muslim. I'd never been close to a Muslim before. Islam to me was just a word I'd heard, maybe a headline, maybe a stereotype. He talked to me about his faith in such a calm, grounded way. No pressure, just conversation. He'd explain how Islam sees God, one God without partners. He'd show me how Islam answers questions about life, death, purpose, community. He'd compare things I'd heard in Christianity to what Islam teaches. And here's what struck me. Every question I asked, he answered. If he didn't know, he'd come back with a proper answer later. No one ever told me, don't question, or just have faith. Questions were allowed. Questions were welcomed. That was new for me. As a teenager, when I'd tried to engage with churches, I felt like my curiosity was a problem. I wanted to understand God, not just be told about him. But I kept getting shut down, like the act of asking meant I didn't believe enough. With Islam, it was the opposite. The more I asked, the more doors opened. The more I learned, the more it made sense. God is one. Life is a test. We're accountable. There's a way to live that brings you closer to him. It was like someone turned on a light in a room I'd been stumbling through for years. But knowing something is true and living by it are two different things. I was still in music. I was still out late, still attached to a lifestyle that didn't line up with what I was learning. I knew that if I embraced Islam, it wouldn't be a small tweak. It would be everything, my friends, my work, my habits, the way I dressed, the way I spoke. I was scared. I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So I hovered in that in-between space, heart moving in one direction, life stuck in another. Then my family was hit by a tragedy. Someone close to me died, suddenly and painfully. Grief has a way of stripping you down to what's real. All the noise, all the pretending, it falls away. I started thinking about death for the first time in a serious way. Where do we go? What's the point of all this? If I died tonight, what would my life have meant? One night, sitting alone, it felt like everything came to a point. I'd been circling the truth for so long, afraid to land, and in that quiet, I realized I couldn't run from what I already believed. I whispered the Shahada. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. It was simple. It was everything. In that moment, I felt a peace I didn't know was possible, a peace that didn't depend on where I lived or who liked me or what I owned. It felt like my soul finally exhaled. But taking the Shahada isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one. My family didn't understand. Some friends pulled away. The invites stopped. I had to leave the music scene because I knew it would keep pulling me back to things I didn't want anymore. I didn't know how to pray properly. I didn't know Arabic. Even basic things, what to eat, how to dress modestly, how to make wudu, felt like huge mountains. I went to the mosque, I joined classes, I asked a million questions. Sometimes the community was warm and beautiful, women who hugged me like a sister they'd been waiting for, aunties who showed me how to tie my hijab, friends who'd call just to check on me. Other times, it was hard. I was judged. People questioned whether my conversion was real. If I made a mistake, it felt like all eyes were on me. I'd think, I left everything to be here. Do I even belong here either? I kept going. I learned to pray, even if I stumbled over the words at first. I learned surahs slowly. I stood on the prayer mat crying because I couldn't get it right, and then I stood on the prayer mat crying because, for the first time in my life, I felt held. I read the Quran in English, and I found answers to questions I'd carried since I was a child. Why do we suffer? What is justice? How does God see me when the world doesn't? I made dua for good friends, and Allah sent me sisters who showed up with food when I was low, who sat next to me in classes, who shared notes, who walked with me through Ramadan and Eid, and all the firsts that feel both magical and overwhelming. I learned that Islam isn't just rituals, it's a way of living that brings light into the most ordinary parts of your day. The way you speak to your mother, the way you earn your money, the way you treat the stranger, the neighbor, the cashier who's having a bad day. There were still bumps. My past didn't vanish. Trauma doesn't dissolve overnight. Some days I battled old habits, old songs stuck in my head, old ways of coping. But I had tools now: prayer, Quran, zikr, good company. I had boundaries. I had hope. I had a Lord who hears, sees, and never leaves. Over time, Allah opened doors I never imagined. I started sharing my story, first to small groups, then to audiences I couldn't see, just a camera lens and a red light. I moved into media, podcasting, and presenting because I wanted to be the voice I once needed. I wanted the girl who feels out of place in her own skin to know she's not broken. I wanted the one who's hovering on the edge of Islam, scared she isn't good enough, to know Allah's mercy is bigger than her fear. When I meet new Muslims, I see myself. The shaky smile, the nervous questions, the quiet pride of someone who's chosen truth even when it costs them. I tell them, you're not alone. It's okay to learn slowly. It's okay to mess up and try again. Allah knew you before you knew yourself. He brought you here on purpose. I also speak to the community because I've been on the other side of the welcome mat. A convert doesn't just need a congratulations on day one. We need family. We need invitations. We need someone to sit beside us in the women's section and whisper the words of the prayer when our mind goes blank. We need patience when culture and religion get tangled and we don't know which is which. We need teachers who explain, not just correct. We need you to see us as part of you. If I look back at that little girl in East London, the teenager in Essex, the young woman losing herself in the noise, I see the thread. I see how every detour, every breakdown, every "why me?" pushed me toward a door that was always meant for me. Islam didn't erase my story, it redeemed it. It gave meaning to what hurt. It gave me a language for gratitude and a way to show love that isn't just words. There are still days I wake up and feel the weight of the past. On those days, I make wudu slowly. I stand and raise my hands and say, Allahu Akbar, and I remember. The one who is greater than my fear, my history, my mistakes, is the same one who guided me when I was lost. I recite even if my voice shakes. I open the Quran and find verses that feel like they were placed there for me this morning. I text a sister. I go to the masjid. I breathe. If you're listening to this and you're on the fence, if you believe but you're scared to commit, or you've taken your Shahada and you're struggling, hear me. You don't have to do it all at once. Take one step, then another. Keep your prayers, even if they're short. Keep your heart soft, even if it's been bruised. Find good people and hold them close. Ask your questions. Cry if you need to. Laugh when Allah sends you ease. Trust that He sees the battles no one else sees. My journey isn't a straight line. It's a path with turns and lessons and kindness in places I didn't expect. But the constant is Allah's mercy. It found me when I was hiding. It picked me up when I fell. It taught me that the truest belonging isn't about fitting into a room. It's about standing before your Lord, known fully and loved completely. I'm grateful for every step that brought me here. I'm grateful for my mom's courage, for my dad's humanity beyond his illness, for the teachers who were patient, for the sisters who fed me, for the friend who answered my first questions, for the nights that broke me open to faith. I'm grateful for Islam, for the way it anchors me, challenges me, softens me, and points me back to the one who never leaves. This is my story, and it's still being written. Every prayer, every test, every new beginning, each one is a reminder that guidance is a gift, and faith is a journey. May Allah keep us firm, forgive our mistakes, and make our paths a source of light for others, the way others were a light for me.